Hello, everyone at the Toffee Blues. My name is Don Bett, and I'm from the Fulham Podcast. Looking ahead to the game at 5:30 at Goodison Park this Saturday. My thoughts on Fulham's season so far? Well, it's been really good, to be fair. You know, we may have lost 3 games this season, but we are in the top half. You know, we had a bit of a blip, I guess you could say, last season compared to how we did in our first season back in the Premier League under Marco Silva. We are in the top half of the table. You know, we lost our first home game of the season against Aston Villa, but you know we've gone away to Manchester City. Probably should have won the game. Gone away to Forest, won, beating Leicester at home, beating Newcastle at home. Should have beat West Ham, drew to them. You know, it's been a good start to the season. I would say last weekend was probably the first game we probably deserved to lose this season. I would say the Man United games and the Man City games away at the Old Trafford and at the Etihad respectively, we probably didn't deserve to lose. So it's been a confident start to the season for us. And I think it's always important just to have that good start to the season. I think that's vital when you're a team who's not, you know, a top 6 side. It just gives you that platform to kick on for the rest of the season. And hopefully we do that and can really push for a top half finish this season once again like we did in our first season back under Marco Silva in the Premier League. So our last game was obviously that 3-1 defeat to Aston Villa. And it's probably the first game this season that I've mentioned that we probably deserved to lose. And, I mean, it's not that we played badly, but the other games we felt really unlucky that we lost in, you know, away to Man United, away to Manchester City. But this game was just a strange game in general. We obviously took the lead through Raul Jimenez. Great ball from Leno. He shugs off the Aston Villa defender. And then, obviously, buries it into the bottom corner with his left foot. But then, obviously, Villa get back into the game through the deflected shot from Morgan Rogers. Quite annoying 2 games in a row now, if you include the Manchester City game. That deflected goal fairly soon after we've scored has got the opposition back into the game. And then from there, obviously, we got the penalty through the, well, if you want to call it handball from Matty Cash, but I mean, it's right in front of him, but his arm, I guess, was in an unnatural position. It's probably not handball, but by the laws of the game and in the modern game, it probably is. But then we saw Pereira step up to take the penalty. And it just made no sense to me. You know, Raul Jimenez is on good form. I think he got 5 goals this season. And then you've also got him scoring the last penalty, waiting on the Forest about a month previous. So for me, it just made no sense. But obviously, we go into half-time 1-1, thinking, oh, we can do something in the second half. But then obviously Ollie Watkins puts him in the lead with a great header. You know, they get a third, you know, and then you have Anderson getting sent off, which I think was a 50-50 challenge. You know, I can see why it's been given as a red, but you know, I think Watkins challenges him as much as he challenges Watkins. I think he just puts his arm out, but when the referee deems it's a foul, he sort of got no decision but to send Anderson off, which was basically the game dead and buried. So I think it's more about bouncing back this weekend. But yeah, it was our first sort of, not poor performance, but our first performance where I thought, okay, yeah, we probably didn't deserve to win that game. But yeah, we're really hoping to bounce back away at Everton this weekend. Thoughts on manager Marco Silva? I said it's always interesting when we go to Everton after his short sort of stint there, where he's been at us for, well, he's managed 150 games for Fulham now. And, you know, Fulham fans love him. You know, what he's done for us, you know. Yes, we came out of the Championship a few times, but it was through the playoffs under Slavisa Jokanovic and under Scott Parker, whereas Marco Silva, we romped the league, you know, scoring unbelievable amounts of goals. We've come up, got a top half finish, we've come up, stayed up again, and we're coming up now and the top half again. In the last 2 summer transfer windows, we sold our 2 best players in Mitrovic and João Palhinha. And it looks like whatever Marco Silva does, we trust in it, and it's done well. You know, his transfer business has been good. It looks like he's got more of a stronghold on who we sign for the club, unlike previous managers at Fulham Football Club. And every Fulham fan's behind him. You know, whatever Silva wants to do, we're fully behind him, and we think he's the man to consolidate us as a top Premier League team and get us back into that top half again and competing where we were sort of in the early 2010s, you know, when in 2009 when we finished 7th, and we got to Europa League final in 2010. You know, we got to Europa League again under Martin Yeo and Mark Hughes with top half finishes. So yeah, I think we fully back Marco Silva to be the man to take us back there. So what my thoughts been on Everton so far this season? I think Everton have looked solid in recent weeks. Obviously there was the start of the season where people were worrying with the bottling the 2-0 leads, you know, at home to Bournemouth and away to Aston Villa. But I think in recent weeks you've looked a lot stronger. I think you've got some good players, the likes of Dwight McNeil, the likes of Calvert-Lewin. And I think, you know, you've shown in recent weeks you've got players who can score goals, and it's just holding on to those leads now. And I think Everton will be fine this season. I don't think you'll be in a relegation scrap as you've been the last few seasons. But who knows? And I think it's just all about sorting out the ownership situation and being in a good position for when you move into that new ground next season. My opinions on Sean Dyche, I like Sean Dyche. I think he's a good manager. I think he's a good, solid manager. I think you just got to give him time. You've got to give him the money to buy his own players when hopefully this new money comes in for you guys. and he'll take you up the table. If you look at last season, if you take away the points deduction, Everton were finished above Fulham, and we thought we had a fairly solid season. So it's Everton just consolidating themselves right upper mid table in the second half of the table, and then pushing on for the top 10 and getting back to where Everton fans probably believe they belong in, challenging for those European places like you did under David Moyes all those years ago. You could talk about moving Dyche on for more fancy football or more progressive football, but you've seen with West Ham that you get rid of David Moyes and, well, look at them under Lopetegui this season. They look like a mess, and everyone thought they had a great transfer window, and they look even worse than ever. So, yeah, I think you've got to stick with Sean Dyche, and I think he can be the man to take you up the table and hopefully into that top half where Everton you would say belong. So Fulham's likely lineup, I'd say, you got obviously Burnt Lennon in goal. We've had a back four really of Tete, Bassey, Anderson and Robson, but obviously Anderson is suspended after his red card against Aston Villa last weekend. So I imagine he'll bring in Diop, who played in the August games before we brought in Anderson. The midfield three is an interesting situation because obviously we have Smith Rowe, we have Pereira. Lukic is obviously injured, which is annoying because he's been one of our best players this season, but you got Sander Berge, you got Harrison Reed. Interestingly, away to Manchester City, he went with more of Andres Pereira in the 10, with two deep midfielders like Harrison Reed and Sander Burgess, who I'd imagine they'd be. And I think I'd rather see that. I thought Smith Rowe had a very poor game last week. He's been anonymous in all our games away from home anyway, and maybe we can bring him on to try and unlock an Everton defence later in the game. So I think Silva might go back to that, but he could stick Smith Rowe still in the 10 with Pereira and Burge behind him. But for me, I'd go Reed, Burge and Pereira in the 10. And then if you're looking in the wide positions, it's only been Iwobi on the left, Traore on the right, and Jimenez up top. But for me, I'd rather see Traore drop to the bench and give Reece Nelson a start, because whenever he's come on, he's looked good. So I'd really like to see him given a go from the start. And obviously, Jimenez up top, he's in great form, so why not start him? Score predictions, tough to predict this game. It's quite weird, Fulham against Everton. For years it'd be only the home team won, but it's been quite swinging to and fro in recent years. But I'm confident Fulham can get back to winning ways this weekend. If we can keep 11 men on the pitch and play like we did away to Manchester City, as we did at home to Newcastle, there's no reason why we can't win this game. But I do believe Everton do have a threat, but I think Fulham can just edge this one in a 2-1 victory. It's very sad this is going to be our last ever trip to Goodison Park. I love going to Goodison Park. It's probably I'm taking out Craven Cottage. It's probably my top two grounds in the league. I have the Goodison Park and the City Ground as my favourite two away games to go to. Proper ground, proper Archibald Leach Stadium. What a football ground should be is what I see Goodison Park as. Right in the mix of houses, good atmosphere. But not like vile atmosphere, as in it's always a good atmosphere when we go there. And it's a shame it's our last visit, and memories wise it's quite strange for us Fulham fans because we didn't win there for so long. We didn't until a few years ago. I'd never seen us win there, and now we've won 3 times technically in 12 months, even include the penalty shootout, winning the Carabao Cup quarter-final last season. So it's sad to not be going, but it also gave me a brilliant happy moment last season with that penalty shootout win. Seeing Fulham get into a cup semi-final for the first time in 20 years. So looking forward to one final last visit and hopefully end it with 3 points. With Halloween round the corner, what's the scariest film I've ever watched? I'm not really a film guy. In regard to horror films, I don't really watch them. And what's the scariest film I watch? Probably if you asked me to watch back Scott Parker's season review from 2021. Or Savici Kalinovic, Ranieri and Scott Parker in the season before. I said I'm not really a film buff, but if you asked me to watch any of Fulham's relegation season review, that's probably my favourite horror film, or least favourite. So I've been Don Betts from the Fulham Podcast, looking ahead to Everton versus Fulham on Saturday at 5:30 for the Toffee Blues.